Hi everybody. So in this video we are going to discuss two topics, that is Attorney General of India and Advocate General of various states. So you have this Article 76 that deals with Attorney General of India, and you have this Article 165 that deals with Advocate General of various states. So this discussion on these topics we are having as part of our discussion on constitutional bodies in Indian Constitution. So as part of our discussion on constitutional bodies, we already have delivered lectures on Election Commission of India. Then we discussed what is this UPSC, then we discussed State Public Service Commission, all the provisions related with UPSC and SPSC. Then we discussed the lecture on Finance Commission. Thereafter we discussed three national commissions, that is National Commission on SC, National Commission on ST and National Commission on Backward Classes. Thereafter we discussed the Finance Commission. Thereafter we delivered lecture on Comptroller and Auditor General of India, and this is going to be last video in the series of our discussion on constitutional bodies. And in this video, as I already told you, we are going to discuss these two topics, that is Attorney General of India and Advocate General. So if you see in the Lakshmikant, these two chapters has been discussed separately, but I thought of clubbing this because the function that is performed by Attorney General of India with respect to the Union, similar function is performed by Advocate General of various state with respect to whatever duties that Advocate General have with respect to their state. Similar function or similar duty is performed by Attorney General of India with respect to the Union. So when these two institutions or when these two constitutional bodies does have similar function, it is just the matter of that who is going to appoint it, who is going to remove these bodies, right? There is very minute difference between these two bodies in method of appointment. So you will notice that Attorney General of India will be appointed by President, while the Advocate General will be appointed by Governor. Thereafter you will notice that in the eligibility criteria or in qualification section, again there is minute difference. So except these minute differences, if you see, more or less the functions and the duties that is performed by Advocate General of various state is same as the Attorney General of India with respect to the Union. And that's why I thought of clubbing these two chapters instead of giving 30 minutes or 35 minutes to Attorney General of India and they are discussing the duty, same duty that will be performed by Advocate General, thereby duplicating your effort, duplicating my own effort, and that's why I have clubbed this chapter. So without wasting time, let us enter into this slide and let us discuss that how we are going to tackle this topic. So first of all, we'll discuss that what is this Attorney General and what is this Advocate General, why these people have been given constitutional status. So mind you, these bodies has been given, this Attorney General of India and Advocate General of India has been given constitutional status because their mention you will find directly into the Constitution. As I already told you that you have this Article 76 that deals with provisions related to the Attorney General of India, and then you have this Article 165 of Indian Constitution that deals with Advocate General. Rather, these bodies, these two bodies is part of executive. This Attorney General is part of Union Executive and this Advocate General is part of State Executive. If you remember when we were discussing this part 5 of Indian Constitution, that was the Union. So as part of discussion on the part 5 of Indian Constitution, if you remember, we had discussed Union Executive, we discussed Union Legislature, that is Parliament, then we discussed the Judiciary, that is Supreme Court. Two chapters that we had not touched in the Union section, that is part 5 of Indian Constitution, that was CAG and that was Attorney General of India. About these two chapters we had said that we will be discussing these two chapters when we will be discussing this constitutional body. So as part of our discussion on constitutional bodies, we already have delivered lectures on CAG, and now in this lecture we are going to discuss this Attorney General of India. If you remember when we were discussing this Union Executive again, so there we had discussed as part of Union Executive, we had described that you have this President, you have this Vice President, you have this Council of Ministers led by Prime Minister and Attorney General of India. So these bodies, these 3 or 4 bodies form part of Union Executive. You have President, Vice President, then Prime Minister led by Council of Ministers, and then Attorney General of India. So Attorney General of India is part of union executive, and similarly advocate general of various state will be part of state executive. So this is one learning that you need to remember, although this point we already have discussed. So in the first vertical we will be discussing that what is this attorney general and what is this advocate general of various state. Then we will be discussing the constitutional provision. So what has been discussed regarding the qualification criteria, who is going to appoint these bodies, then what is their term, tenure, all those aspects we will discuss when we will discuss the provisions of this article 76 and provisions of this article 165. So that we will discuss in the second leg of this video. In the third leg of this video we will be discussing the duties and limitation that has been imposed on Attorney General of India and Advocate General office, right? What are the duties that has been assigned by the constitution on the Attorney General of India's office, and what are the duties that can be conferred on the Attorney General of India by the President. Similarly, Advocate General have certain duties, so that is mentioned, some duties has been mentioned into the constitution, and there are some duties that can be assigned to the Advocate General of various state by various state, their concerned state governors. So that we will discuss, and there are certain limitations as well. So that limitation and the duties we will discuss into the third leg of this video. Thereafter we will discuss what is this solicitor and additional solicitor general, right? And thereafter there are 4 MCQ that has been appended at the last of this slide that I will expect you to attempt. So after having declared how we are going to approach this topic, let us enter into the core of this video and let us start discussing that what is this Advocate General and what is this Attorney General. So even before delving into this article 76 and article 165 that talks about Attorney General of India and Advocate General of various states, let us talk about two another articles, that is article 1 and article 300. What is this article 1? So article 1 describes India as a union of states, and now this union of state, that is India, has been granted a status of legal entity. Now you might be reading in various newspapers, the Ganga river has been given this status of legal entity, or cow has been given this status of legal entity, or the temple has been, or that masjid or that mosque has been given the status of legal entity. So what is this meaning of awarding this legal entity status? So as soon a body, as soon an institution, as soon a non-living entity, as I gave you example that Ganga river is also a legal entity. So as soon a entity, as soon a body, as soon a non-living entity is given status of this legal entity, you will notice that the body becomes legal in status. You can sue that body and that body can sue. So if you are polluting Ganga, so the chief secretary of the state where this Ganga river is flowing, so suppose an industry is polluting Ganga in the Kanpur, so the chief secretary has been made chief patron of Ganga or the stretch of Ganga that is flowing into the UP. Similarly, chief secretary of the Uttarakhand has been made responsible or chief patron for the Ganga river, for the stretch of Ganga river that is flowing into the Uttarakhand. So the chief secretary can sue that particular industry, right? So that is the meaning of legal status. So legal Union of India is a legal entity. What is the meaning of legal entity? So you can, suppose you are a contractor, now you have been conferred a award, or you have been given a contract of constructing 300 kilometer of stretch of a national highway by Ministry of Road and Transport, that is being headed by Nitin Gadkari, I guess, right? So suppose that ministry has given you an agreement, you have entered into an agreement, and now that ministry is not honoring the terms that has been mentioned into that agreement. So you can sue that ministry. In effect, when you are suing any ministry, any part of the government, ultimately you are suing union government. Or if a foreign entity is indulged into commercial activity with the union government, and if again union government is not honoring the agreement that has been mentioned into that part of agreement, then that foreign entity as well can sue this union government, right? So this thing that this body, union government, Union of India, can be sued, or it can sue other entity as well. So that has been mentioned into article 300. You can check this article 300 that describes Union of India as a legal entity, and it gives power to the union government of India or Union of India to sue someone or to get sued, right? So this has become now a legal entity. Union of India becomes legal entity, and similarly state is also, state like Tamil Nadu, state like Madhya Pradesh, these are also a legal entity. Now suppose a state like Madhya Pradesh, state like Tamil Nadu, or any state for that matter, or Union of India has been sued by some entity, or it has sued some entity. Now at that moment it can go to any lawyer and can ask that, hey, my case is there against that particular person or against that particular institution in that particular high court or in that Supreme Court. Can you contest that case? No, that does not happen like that. These union government or state government are not individuals like us who will have a case against them or filing a case against a particular body once in a while, once in 5 years or 10 years or perhaps whole of the lives. Our individual whole of the lives goes on, there is no case against us, or we perhaps may not be filing case against a particular entity. But as far as these governments are concerned, be it union government or state, you will see that thousands of cases are filed against union government every day, and thousands of cases, right? You do have this income tax institution. So this income tax, when it is filing cases against particular taxpayer or particular institution, what is this? This income tax is a government body, right? So it is nothing but it is representing government of India, and that's why you will notice that there will be thousands of cases that will be popping up against government of India or government of state because of these kind of institution. And that's why you will see, you will notice that they will have this panel of lawyer, and they will have this battery of lawyer to contest these kind of cases on the behalf of union government or on behalf of state government. So this Attorney General of India that I am talking about, Attorney General of India is the highest law officer of the country, highest lawyer of the union government. Similarly, Advocate General of the state, he is the highest lawyer, or he is the first ranking lawyer of a state, right? So I hope you would have understood. If I talk about the article, so article I have repeated multiple times that it is Article 76 that deals with Attorney General of India, and when it comes to Advocate General of various state, it is the Article 175 that deals with that does have provisions related to the Advocate General of various state. He is highest law officer of the country. Attorney General of India is the highest law officer of the country, and similarly Advocate General is the highest law officer of the state. He may be also called first law officer, and he acts as a chief legal advisor to the government of India. When it is saying, so whenever I'll be referring to the government of India, you have to understand that I am talking about Attorney General's role, and whenever I am talking about role for the state government, then you will have to understand that I will be talking about this Advocate General. So that is one difficulty, or that is one caution that you will have to take when we are discussing this Advocate General and Attorney General of India at the same time in the same video. So I hope the constitutional provision and what is this Advocate General and what is this Attorney General of India you will have clarity on. Now we are moving to the next slide, and now we'll talk about the appointing authority. So the appointing authority for the Attorney General of India will be President, but as far as appointing authority for the Advocate General of various state is concerned, so it is the head of their state that is going to appoint. So who is the head of state? So you have this governor who is going to appoint this Advocate General. Now if I talk about the next parameter, that is qualification. So is there any qualification that is mentioned if a person has to be appointed Attorney General of India? What qualification he or she should have? So a person who wants to be appointed as Attorney General of India, he should possess all the qualification that is necessary for a person, for a lawyer to be appointed as Supreme Court judge. So I hope you do have clarity on this point, because when we were discussing this Supreme Court judge, we already had, when we were discussing this eligibility criteria for the Supreme Court judge, we already had discussed that what are the requirements. So he should have been the lawyer. If you remember, let us recall it, what is the qualification that is necessary. So this slide is from your Supreme Court. So the qualification that we had discussed there, so the A plus B criteria, if you remember, right, if you are a regular viewer, you would be knowing this A plus B criteria. Into the A, he should be citizen of India. So a person who wants to be appointed as Attorney General of India, right, he should be citizen of India. It can't be that any lawyer studied a law into the Harvard or any other law institution, world class institution, and if he does not happens to be citizen of India, he also can be appointed. No, that does not happen. Rather, that condition will remain for the Advocate General of State. So he must be citizen of India. Besides that, a person being appointed, a person looking to be appointed as Attorney General of India, he must possess any of these three conditions. So either he should have been a lawyer into Indian High Court or High Courts for 10 years, or he should have been a High Court judge or a judge in various High Court for 5 years, or he should be distinguished jurist into the opinion of the President. So any of these three qualifications along with the citizen of India qualifies one person to be Attorney General of India. One thing that needs to be noticed here, that he should be eligible for appointment as judge of Supreme Court. He needs not to be a Supreme Court judge, right? The eligibility criteria just mentions it, that he should be eligible. He should possess the eligibility criteria to be appointed as Supreme Court judge. He needs not to be. So if a person have been in past Supreme Court judge, then fine, right? But if he has not been Supreme Court judge, and if he just possesses any of these qualifications, then he or she can be appointed Attorney General of India. Similarly, if I talk about the Advocate General of various states, so a person who wants to be appointed as Advocate General of any state, the qualification that he needs to be possessed is that he or she should be eligible to be appointed as judge into the High Court. So here, when you are being appointed at the union level, when you are being appointed as Attorney General, then the criteria was that he or she should have qualification to be appointed into the Supreme Court. The qualification that is necessary is not Supreme Court, but that person should be eligible to be appointed into the High Court, because we are talking about the highest law officer for the state. Then we will be talking of highest court of that particular state. So in a state, the highest court is High Court. So that person, again the same thing, same emphasis, that he need not to be the judge of the High Court. Yes, means if he has been judge of the High Court, well enough, good enough, that's not an issue, that is an added advantage. But if a person has not been a High Court judge, but if he or she possesses the qualification to be appointed as a High Court judge, then even that would work, right? So what are the qualifications for being appointed as a High Court judge? So that point also we have already discussed. So either he should have as an advocate, he should have been practiced in various High Court for 10 years, or one High Court or two High Court, or he should have held some judicial office for 10 years, right? And the citizen of India is a necessary condition. So here again, A plus B criteria, all these points we already have discussed. For appointment, he also needs to be citizen of India. So these points we already have discussed, right? So here on this slide, we discussed two things, that is appointment method, the appointing authority, and the eligibility criteria. Here the Supreme Court judge, here High Court judge, and the appointing authority in case of Attorney General of India was President, and in case of Advocate General, it is the Governor. So I hope you do have clarity on the appointment and the qualification for a person to be appointed as Attorney General of India, and for a person to be appointed Advocate General of India. If I talk about the term of Attorney General of India and the Advocate General of India, so in Constitution there is no clear cut. Whatever constitutional bodies that so far we have studied, be it Election Commission, be it UPSC, State Public Service Commission, or CAG, so they had this term defined, except this Finance Commission, who was dependent on the pleasure of President, and except this National Commission on SC, National Commission on ST, National Commission on backward classes, right, where the term was to be decided by the parliamentary law. Except these bodies, whatever constitutional bodies we have discussed, that is Election Commission of India, UPSC, SPSC, or CAG, right, it did have fixed tenure, that was 6 year or 65 year, whichever is earlier. But here the term of Attorney General and the term of Advocate General has not been defined into the Constitution. They are entirely on the pleasure of President or Governor. When we will be talking about the Attorney General, he resides in the office completely on the pleasure of President, whenever President's like. And when I'm saying President, right, once he has been appointed, this is the Council of Ministers ultimately. Formally, although for the purposes of exam you will be writing President, but actually in reality it is the Council of Ministers. So if Council of Ministers does not want, if this Attorney General of India is not in good terms, if he is not working efficiently, if he is not bringing the results from the Supreme Court, when I am saying bringing the results, it's not about managing the Supreme Court or the kind of activities that is ongoing into the recent past. I am not talking about that thing, but if again means if there is any question on his efficiency, if there is any question on his integrity, and if the Council of Ministers does not want Attorney General to continue on his office, they will ask President to remove him, and then his services will not be required. So this Attorney General of India completely rely or completely reside in his office as long as President wants. So on the pleasure, it is the pleasure doctrine that is activated. So here with respect to the Election Commission, with respect to the UPSC, with respect to the CAG, right, there was no pleasure doctrine that was working. Similarly for the Advocate General holds office with the pleasure of the governor. So same concept, if his integrity, if his efficiency, if his case contesting capability is being questioned, then in that case governor can ask a Advocate General that you need to resign, otherwise he can be terminated as well. Now if he continues, so might be that he may continue along with the government. So what happens if there is any government change? Will the government appoint any other, what has been the practice? So will any government appoint any other Attorney General of India or Advocate General? So yes, see, the tradition has been, although with respect to this thing, that once Attorney General, because in the constitution there is no term that has been defined, so might be there may be chance that suppose right now the NDA government has appointed this KK Venugopal, right? He happens to be your Attorney General of India. So might be that if there is any government change in 2024, and thereafter if the next government as well wants to continue his services, they can well do so. There is no constitutional provision that asks that you need to, as soon the government has been changed, you need to change this Attorney General as well. So they can continue his services. But the tradition that has been means it has been a established political principle that as soon the incumbent government, the government which has appointed any Attorney General of India, right, as soon that government goes from the office, as soon that particular Lok Sabha is dissolved, he also resigns. So that is the practice that we have been following. So traditionally he resigned with the completion of term of government, but again there is no any constitutional provision that mentions that the term of Attorney General of India or term of Advocate General of state will be co-terminus with the term of that particular government. There is no such constitution. But again, as I told you, that there is this political tradition that has been established that whosoever, so right now the KK Venugopal, what is this, KC Venugopal or KK Venugopal? Some Venugopal man is there. Prior to that you have this Mukul Rohtagi, right? So you have this Venugopal, and as soon if he manages to continue till 2024, perhaps he will be removed from his services even before 2024, and you will see a change because of political reasons, right? You would be knowing that why he will perhaps be removed even prior to 2024 before completion. But suppose if he continues beyond continues until 2024, so it is not necessary that he will be removed, although again established political principle dictates that he will have to resign, right? So I hope you will have clarity on this term of Attorney General of India and term of Advocate General of so this was all about the term of Attorney General and Advocate General. If I talk about the rights and privileges of Attorney General of India and Advocate General of India, then their rights and privileges are connected with the privileges that has been extended to the Member of Parliament and Member of Legislative Assembly. So if you remember, we had a dedicated discussion on the privileges, right? When we were discussing this Parliament, so we have this last lecture on the privileges where we had spent more than 1 hour and we had discussed these two articles, Article 105 and Article 194. So these two articles we have discussed in detail. So this is a snapshot from your article when we were discussing this Article 105 and Article 194. So this is a snapshot from that lecture. So there we had discussed these two articles in the detail. Article 105 actually deals with the rights and privileges of member of parliament, and article 94 deals with rights and privileges of member of legislative assembly. So whatever privileges that we have extended to the member of parliament, similar privileges or similar rights Attorney General of India as well will enjoy at the central level. Similarly, under article 194 we have extended certain rights and certain privileges to member of legislative assembly and member of legislative council. Similar rights and similar privileges will be extended to the Advocate General of state, that particular state as well. So that was about your rights and privileges. Now another rights of this Attorney General of India and Advocate General of state, if I talk about, so see, Attorney General of India is not part of your parliament. He is neither member of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, yet he does have power that he can participate into the meetings of Lok Sabha, he can participate into the meetings of Rajya Sabha, he can also participate into the meeting of parliamentary committee. Now without member, how he is going to participate? And similarly, Advocate General of various state does have power that they can participate into the meetings of assembly and they can participate into the meetings of their upper house. So there are few state which does have this two houses, bicameral legislature, so they can, Advocate General can participate into the meetings of assembly and upper house and their committees as well. Now the point is that if they are not member of Lok Sabha, if they are not member of Rajya Sabha, if they are not directly member of any of the parliamentary committee, what right they do have to participate into the meeting? So to understand that what is the reason that they are allowed to participate into the meetings of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, and similarly Advocate General into the assembly and the upper house or any of their committee, so you will have to understand their role. What is their role? What is the role of Attorney General of India or Advocate General of various states? So the role or the duties of this Attorney General of India is to appear on the behalf of, if there is any case in which central government is tangled or union government is tangled, or if there is any case where state government is tangled, right? So in that case they will have to represent central government. In that case they will have to, this Attorney General of India will have to represent the center, right, into the Supreme Court or High Court. Now if there is any remark that is extended by this Attorney General of India that is very controversial. So recently you have the Solicitor General of India, that is Tushar Gupta. He made some political remark while contesting a particular case on this issue of migrants. So opposition has criticized this ruling party or the government because of poor handling or poor management of this migrant issue during the lockdown. So there Tushar Mehta, while Supreme Court had raised this issue that how this union government is handling this issue of migrant labor. So there, while criticizing the stand taken by the opposition, Solicitor General had raised some question on the opposition. He had used certain objectionable word against the opposition, who also happens to be member of parliament. Now as a legal luminary, now as a, you are appointee of union government, you have given right or you have this duty to represent center. If ruling party, if any politician, if member of parliament is criticizing the opposition, that will do, that is a good thing, right? They do have every right to criticize the stand taken by their peers. But as a legal luminary, when you are representing, and this was not about actually Attorney General of India, he was this Tushar Mehta is Solicitor General, but I am just taking just to make you understand that in what case this Attorney General of India can be called. So suppose if Attorney General had taken similar stand, and if Attorney General had criticized the stand taken by the opposition, in that case, if opposition does not like, they can call to understand that what remark, because whatever this opposition member heard about this Tushar Mehta, that is Solicitor General, whatever they heard, that was through press or media. Now to have a first hand experience, they might call this Solicitor General, or suppose if he had been Attorney General of India and if he had extended this remark, right, this Attorney General of India could be called into the parliamentary committee for the explanation, that to the honorable member, how can you pass, for the honorable members, how can you pass such kind of remark, how can you call in some objectionable well these kind of remark that these are vultures or something, some story he had weaved up, right? So in such cases, if any cases where this Attorney General of India is representing union, and if they are making any kind of controversial remark, parliamentarian belonging to the opposition party or even to the ruling party, they have every right that they can call him or her to give a statement into the Lok Sabha, to give a statement into the Rajya Sabha, to give a statement into the committee. Similar thing is with Advocate General as well. So if Advocate General has taken any stand, so recently you have this Attorney General of India who had appeared on the behalf of centre on the issue of reservation, and some kind of information he had put up in front of the Supreme Court, and when he was asked from the opposition member that what information, what stand he took on the reservation on the behalf of, while appearing on the behalf of centre, he passed some wrong information, and that was later revealed by the Supreme Court itself. So that stand of Attorney General of India was also criticized. So in such cases, Attorney General of India or at state level Advocate General of that particular state can be called into their assembly, can be called into the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, can be. So Advocate General of course will not be called into the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. Whenever I am talking about this central thing, you will have to understand that I am talking about Attorney General of India, right? So if such stand is taken by Advocate General, then for the explanation they can be called into the assembly, for the explanation they can be called into the upper house, or they can be called in any kind of committee. So with these kind of cases I was talking about, they have right that they can participate into the parliamentary proceeding, they can participate into the, whenever they are called they can participate, but while participating into the proceeding, if there is during he is sitting, so during, suppose for 2 hours on a particular day or 3 hours on a particular day he is sitting, while he is sitting, if any resolution is being taken or if any law is being passed, so he, although he'll be sitting in that house, but he will not have right to vote. So that is one caution that you will have to take. That question can be asked, that okay, if he is being part of any parliamentary committee, or if he is sitting into the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha or assembly about this Advocate General, so does he or she holds right to vote as well? No, they do not. They can speak, they can put their side, they can whatever remark that they have, whatever question that they have been asked, they can have their side, but they cannot vote. So that was one right. Another right or another privilege is, if I talk about, so they do have, Attorney General of India does have right to audience in any court across the India, where on the government behalf, of course, on the union government's behalf, if union government is tangled into any cases, right? So to represent union government, to represent central government, Attorney General of India can appear in any court into the territory of India. Similarly, if I talk about Advocate General of the state, so Attorney General had right to appear in any court because he was representing union government. If I talk about Advocate General, so Advocate General has right to audience, he can go into any court within the limits of that particular state to represent the state government. So I hope that rights and privileges you will have clarity on with the example that we have taken. Now if I talk about the duties of Attorney General of India or duties of Advocate General, so duties, whatever duties, so duties of this Attorney General of India and duties of Advocate General, they derive their duties from the Constitution, or if President assigns any kind of duty, so President can assign any kind of duty to what? To Attorney General of India. Similarly, Governor. So one source, so there are two sources for the duties for the Attorney General and Advocate General. What are those two sources? So one is Constitution, whatever that duties that has been mentioned into Article 76 and Article 165. So Article 76 AGI and Advocate General 160. So whatever duties that has been mentioned into these two articles, or the President does have right that he can assign any additional duty to Attorney General of India. Similarly, Governor does have right that he or she can assign any duty to Advocate General of that particular state. So the duty derivation is from these two sources. Another duty, if you see, he or she is going to represent, so that point we already have discussed, that wherever center or state is strangled, this Attorney General will represent in that particular case to the center, and the Advocate General will represent that or act as a counsel for the state, right? She or he, right, also advise center or state in any of the legal matter referred to him or her by president. So president will refer, if president has referred any case that he, can you means in this case, particular case, center is being tangled, can you give your opinion that how should we proceed? Rather, even before preparing the law, any kind of bill, Attorney General opinion, along with, you do have dedicated ministry, that is law ministry, they do have again their legal advisor, but on the law as well, if there is any chance that what you call that bill, or after the bill has been passed, that act can be challenged into the Supreme Court. So how to tackle that particular bill or how to defend that act, right? So on that, advice can be taken. Then AGI of India, Attorney General of India, appears in Supreme Court on behalf of center in case president has sought SC's opinion. So you have this article 143. What this article 143 deals with? So article 143 deals with presidential reference. If on any matter president want to seek the opinion of Supreme Court, he can do so because of this article 143. So if president or the government of the day has sought any opinion on any matter, if they have sought opinion of Supreme Court, in that case, right, you will notice that Attorney General of India will fetch all the information, whatever communication that will Supreme Court will have, right? So on any particular legal matter, so suppose if there is any question that is sought on which explanation is being sought by the union government from the Supreme Court. So suppose this union government raised a question that whether in policy matter Supreme Court should intervene or not. On this particular question, there would be wise raging debates, right? There would be 3 or 4 settings. So who is going to represent center, or who is going to represent this president in that case into the Supreme Court? So it is the Attorney General of India. So I hope the role of or the duties of Attorney General of India or Advocate General of the states you will have clarity on. Now we are moving to discuss the limitation. There are certain limitations on the parts of Attorney General of India and Advocate General of states. So that we are going to discuss what kind of cases, what nature of cases they cannot contest, whether they can contest, whether they can take private cases or not. So that point we are going to discuss on this slide. So let's try to understand this. Attorney General of India or Advocate General is not a full-time employment like you guys, IAS officer or IPS officers are appointed by the union government. So that is a career service, right? For whatever number of years until retirement. Of course, unless you are made to resign or unless your services are terminated, you are going to be appointed for life, right? Of course, until that particular age. So that is called career service. But Attorney General of India is not a career service. It is only when their advices are sought by the president. It is only when union government is tangled in a particular case or a state government is tangled in a particular case, it is only then that their advices will be sought. So since he is not this Attorney General of India or Advocate General of State is not a full-time employment, so they have been given this right, they can accept any private cases as well. So yes, they can accept. So if this question is asked that whether, means logically it may sound completely ridiculous that the person who is going to contest cases for union government or a state government, he is being allowed to take a private case, right? It may lead to conflict of interest. So yes, they may, in certain nature of cases, if taken by Attorney General of India or Advocate General of India, it may lead to conflict of interest. So there are constitutional provision that is mentioned into the constitution, into these article itself. What are those constitutional provisions? So see, try to understand this. While accepting the private cases, the one caution that this Attorney General of India or Advocate General of various states that they have to take is that whenever they are accepting any case that is criminal in nature, so suppose I have murdered someone, right? I have murdered someone and now I am going to the Advocate General of my state, or my family is approaching this Advocate General and asking that, hey, since you have this expertise in criminal matter, can you handle this case, can you protect my brother, or can you protect my son, right? So in that case you will notice that this advocate general generally does not will not take this case, or if he is going to take this case, if he is going to accept this case, he will have to obtain the permission. So in case of advocate general, he will have to obtain the permission from the government of state, that particular state government. And if this dilemma is before Attorney General of India, he or she will have to obtain the permission of government of India. Now let us try to understand that here you are saying that you can accept the private case because we have not appointed you for life, because you are not our career servant, because you are not the civil servant, right? So we are allowing you to take the private case. But here, as soon this criminal matter or criminal prosecution is coming, right, you are asking that you will have to seek our permission. So what is this logic? This is completely bizarre. No, this is not bizarre. Now here try to understand the dilemma, and the dilemma is that this advocate general is also a appointee of state, although he has been given concession to contest this particular case. And here the public prosecutor on the side of this victim, he has also been appointed by the state itself. The duty of state was to protect this victim and not me, but his representative, the state's representative, that is advocate general, he is going to contest from murderer side. Almost murderer means, of course, until and unless it has been established whether he is a murderer or not, but in this hypothetical example I am saying that I am a murderer. So here the contest will not be between this murderer and this victim, rather the state versus state, because this person, this public prosecutor, has also been appointed by the state itself, and advocate general is also appointee of state. So it is state versus state. So that is leading to the conflict of interest. So that's why this provision has been made that whenever you are accepting any case which is criminal in nature, advocate general will have to obtain those. So the by case by case basis the merit will be looked into, and then it will be decided whether advocate general of that particular state or attorney general at the central level should be given permission to contest that case or not. Generally the practice is that advocate general once appointed or attorney general once appointed, they generally do not accept. He should this advocate general and Attorney General of India, they should not hold any kind of brief against the government. They will not get into this bar association, on the behalf of bar association. They will not be striking against the government of India. And similarly, this advocate general will not go to the bar association, or they will not go to the press and will hold any kind of brief against the state government itself. So that is one limitation on the powers or on the rights of the Attorney General of India and the Advocate General of India. Another limitation: Attorney General of India and Advocate General of state has right to speak into the Parliament, Assembly or the committee, but they are not part of the cabinet. Here try to understand the important point. This Attorney General of India is part of executive, right, but he is not part of cabinet. Advocate General is part of state executive, but he is also not part of cabinet. So that difference you will have to understand. So this is about limitation on the parts of AGI and Advocate General of India. Now this is the last slide that we will discuss Solicitor General and Additional Solicitor General. So this is the last topic of this particular video. So you have this Solicitor General and Additional Solicitor General. Now what is their role, what they have been, why they have been appointed? So as I already told you that every day against the union government there would be thousands of cases that would be filed against the union government. So Attorney General single-handedly cannot handle all those cases. So you will notice that on the panel of union government you will have the battery of lawyer, you will have hundreds of lawyers. Out of that hundred of lawyer, the hierarchy that you will see, that Attorney General of India at the union level, he is the first ranking law officer, he is the chief legal advisor of the union. Below this, the second post is of the Solicitor General. So he is second highest law officer of the union government. So he is the second highest legal advisor of the union government, and thereafter you have various additional Solicitor General and there would be various lawyers, right? So but the difference between Attorney General of India and Advocate General, the Solicitor General is not only into the hierarchy that he happens to be rank 1 and this Solicitor General happens to be rank 2. There is except this difference, besides this difference, the another difference is that while Attorney General of India has been mentioned directly into the Constitution, the Solicitor General, the post of Solicitor General, an additional Solicitor General has been created by an act. So these designation, these posts at the union level are statutory in nature. The job, the role of the Solicitor General and additional Solicitor General, right now the example that I was giving of the controversy that was created into that migrant issue, right, that was created by the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, right. So the difference between Attorney General of India and the Solicitor General, I hope you will have clarity. The basic difference is on ranking, that is number 1. Attorney General is the chief legal advisor, the first ranking lawyer, while the Solicitor General is the second ranking lawyer or second ranking legal advisor. That is the first difference. The second difference between Attorney General of India and Solicitor General is that while Attorney General of India is a constitutional designation, Solicitor General is a statutory post. So that was about this solicitor, and thereafter to support this the job, the role of Solicitor General is to support this Attorney General, although he can take independent cases as well, for he can represent union government or the central government into the Supreme Court or High Court independently as well, but the primary role of this Solicitor General is to assist Attorney General of India into his or her functions. Similarly, you have additional Solicitor General. So the additional Solicitor General's role is to assist this Solicitor General in performance or in discharge of his or her duties. So with this we are wrapping up this lecture. So Attorney General of India and Advocate General, I hope you will have clarity on. You have this Article 76 that deals with the provision, every provision, be it qualification, be it appointing authority, be it term, be it disqualification, right. So all the provision of Attorney General has been discussed in Article 76. Attorney General of India does have relation with the union government, while the Advocate General has been discussed in this Article 165, and he does have relation, whatever duties that he is supposed to perform, he will perform in relation to the state government. So that is the basic difference, and I hope you will have been able to separate this Attorney General from the Advocate General, because we have discussed this in the same video. So whatever means whenever it will come to the removal process or the appointment process of the Advocate General, it would be the governor, whether it will be regarding the assigning of additional duty, so it will be done by the governor with respect to the Advocate General. But whenever we will be talking about this Attorney General, the additional functions will be assigned by the President and not by the governor. So with respect to the Attorney General, who is Chief Legal Advisor of the Center, all the things will happen with the Center, that is appointment by the President, removal by the President, additional assignment of duty by the President, but in Advocate General it would be the governor. So with this we are wrapping up this lecture with the 4 MCQ that I expect you to attempt. So this is the first MCQ, this is the second MCQ, this is the third MCQ, and this is the fourth MCQ. So these are 4 MCQ that I expect you to attempt. So with this we are wrapping up this constitutional bodies section. After this we'll have a brief break of 2 or 3 days, and thereafter we'll start this extra constitutional bodies or statutory bodies, and we are almost done with 85% of the syllabus. Although chapter wise, if you see, there would be 20 around chapter that would be pending, but if you see the size wise, we already have finished more than 85% of the syllabus, and rest assured that all the syllabus remaining chapters will also be completed, and whatever one chapter, one very important chapter, that is center state relation, I promise you before completion to the 2020 aspirant, I am committing that before completion, before this prelim, I will be completing that as well. As far as other chapter, other not important, so cabinet committees or the cabinet minister, those things, those not important things we have not discussed. So for 2021 students, rest assured that we will be completing those chapters as well. It's just a matter of time. We are first concentrating for this 2020 candidate, let their syllabus be completed first, and thereafter. So till then, till we come up with this extra constitutional bodies, till then, bye bye.